This House gathers today less than a year since the last general election, as the Taoiseach reminds us, and indeed just over 250 days since the government was formed. The 34th Dáil sits at a time of global uncertainty, a time of geopolitical turbulence. It was in this context that the people made their choice at the last election, and the resultant Dáil has very serious business to do on their behalf. We have just seen the first of 5 budgets, which will seek to create the conditions for our country to maintain a strong economy, protect jobs, improve public services and build for our future. We're making a record investment in housing and infrastructure, and we're pulling every policy lever at our disposal to dramatically address this major challenge. The Department of Health now has a budget of over €27 billion, and this record allocation is being accompanied by a significant programme of reform to enable faster and fairer care. The level of investment in disability services this year is truly a step change compared to all previous years, and it needs to be. And the government is deeply committed to overseeing delivery now and making sure that that huge financial investment actually makes a difference in the lives of people who so desperately need that. These are some of the major issues of concern to the Irish public, and their expectation is that we're relentless in making progress and indeed in working together on these matters. In my experience, most members of this House seek to work constructively to do just that. I've always endeavoured to work on many issues on a cross-party basis. It's often when we do our best work. I can think of examples like Sláinte Care or referenda campaigns, but also more recently I was glad to work with members across this House to support Irish citizens on the global Samud flotilla. In every capacity that I've served, I've always taken responsibility and accounted for my actions before this House, before the Seanad, in committees, in public and crucially at the ballot box. I've acknowledged time and again that we're not where we need to be in addressing ongoing deficits in the care of children in spinal services, despite the sincere efforts of successive ministers, governments and Taoiseach. I'm very conscious of the tragic loss of Harvey Morrison Sherish, and I've expressed directly my deep sorrow to his parents, Gillian and Stephen. In recent times, further significant concerns have been raised in relation to spinal services. And I, the Minister for Health, Taoiseach, the Government, have responded by saying we must listen to and work with parents and advocacy groups who are highlighting hugely worrying and important issues. We must humbly listen and act. That has been the purpose of my engagement with Harvey's family and with other parent advocates. That's been what the Taoiseach, the Minister and I have been working on over the last number of weeks. Like members across this House, I've been overwhelmed by the passion and determination of these families who have already been through so much, but are acting out of a deep commitment to getting better care for others. I know that members of all political parties and independent colleagues attended a briefing in the AV room yesterday, as did the Minister for Health, and heard the most distressing and convincing testimony supporting the need for an inquiry. All members who attended and spoke at the briefing were united and constructive in their response. We have agreed to work in partnership on the structure of an inquiry into spina bifida and scoliosis services, with a further meeting to take place shortly with Gillian and Stephen and representative groups. And in this House, this government will work with anyone who wants to work constructively to make progress on this matter. Let's Corda, that is my priority in responding to these important matters, and I know it's the priority of the entire government. When the government came to office in January of this year, we promised to put people before politics. It was and remains our commitment to service, to responsibility, and to the belief that public office carries with it a duty to enter government and use our time as elected representatives to deliver progress. On the day the government was formed, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and our independent colleagues made a conscious choice. We set aside differences, not because it was easy, but because it was the right thing to do for our country. And over the course of the last 9 months, we've set about honouring this democratic mandate given to us by the Irish people. Acting on that mandate, we've launched the largest capital plan in the history of the state, investing €102.4 billion over the next 5 years. It's a plan not built on headlines, but on homes, on hospitals, on schools, on transport, on the foundations of a fair economy. 1 in every €3 in that plan will be dedicated to housing, because we know that without a secure home, no other part of a person's life can truly take root. To make that funding deliver requires reform of planning, land use, construction, finance and local delivery, the key enablers. We've introduced rent pressure zones nationwide, providing certainty and stability. We've changed apartment standards. We've introduced a series of measures in last week's budget to stimulate supply and tackle vacancy and dereliction. And shortly we'll publish a new housing plan which will reaffirm this government's commitment to deliver the homes our country needs. I know that a republic is judged not just by what it builds, but by how it cares. And in the area of disability, we have so much work to do. We've sought to and we must move beyond aspiration to action. I'm pleased that Ministers Foley and Naughton have overseen a record level of investment in disability services, an increase of over €618 million in extra funding in last week's budget. What matters now is how we use it. And we've been engaging directly with parents, with carers, with advocates, with people like Cara Darmody, listening to their voices and trying to act on what they tell us, doubling the fund dedicated to assisting parents accessing assessments of needs. We're trying to listen and respond. Minister McEntee has established a national therapy service, putting therapists in special schools, with the rollout in 45 schools this year and more to follow. It's a start, not a finish, and we will and we must go further. I've long believed, and I know the Taoiseach has long believed, that children with additional needs should not have to fight the system for the services they need. The system must be changed to support them, and we're working every day to make this a reality. Leska and Corla, in my own direct areas of responsibility, foreign affairs and defence, we've continued to stand shoulder to shoulder with those in crisis, with the people of Ukraine defending their sovereignty, with civilians in Gaza facing intolerable suffering. Ireland's voice on the world stage has remained rooted in human rights, peace and humanitarian law. We've provided record levels of assistance because neutrality can never mean indifference. Compassion must be matched by action. In defence, we've delivered record funding to our defence forces. We're on the trajectory of reaching level of ambition too. And this is not simply about equipment, it's about respect. Respect for the men and women of Óglaigh na hÉireann who serve, who respond in storms on seas, in search and rescue, in peacekeeping missions, often unseen, but never unnoticed. Leska and Corla, throughout my time in public life, as a Minister of State in the Department of Finance, as Minister for Health or Further and Higher Education, Minister for Justice, Taoiseach, Tánaiste, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Trade and Defence, I've always tried to do one thing, to work hard in service of the people. I've never claimed to be infallible, but I do act in good faith. And when I make mistakes and when I err, I acknowledge them. I don't always get everything right, but let us distinguish scrutiny from cynicism and accountability from opportunism. Let's reduce the toxicity in political debate. I respect every member of this House because each one carries a mandate directly from the Irish people. We must not permit the framing of debate to be decided by those who view politics as a zero-sum game composed of confrontation rather than conviction. Political leadership matters, and it matters whether we lean towards polarisation or towards solidarity. It matters whether we cultivate division or whether we seek to build on what unites us. Our priority, my priority, remains the same: to work to build a country in which every person, regardless of their starting point, has the support and opportunity to live with dignity. That must be our North Star. We're not satisfied that there are still many areas where we have sufficient and significant deficiencies and major improvements to make. We must be restless to do more. We are committed to delivering. We're committed to working in partnership. We're committed to working in good faith. That is the duty of government. That is the duty which guides me each day and every day, and it will continue to do so as this government fulfils the mandate given to us by the Irish people and as I continue to fulfil mine. Sure.